Good day, everybody. Today I'm talking to Scott Lee, who is the managing director of the Unspoken Pitch. Good day, Scott. How are you?
Hey, buddy. Really good to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving us your time, Scott, today, despite your busy schedule.
It's all good. It's all good. Busy people get things done, so it's totally fine.
Good on you, Scott. Are you happy for me to go move into the first question?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get started.
Thank you. Scott, can you please share a little about yourself, the place you were born, your education, your passion, the things that you enjoy doing, and one thing that the public might not know about you?
Sure. I was actually born in America, Houston, Texas. My nationality is Chinese, Vietnamese. My background's in architecture, being a very loyal, passionate person on entrepreneurship, sales, and marketing. I love it a lot. In the early days of it, I really delved into a lot of social dynamics and understanding human psychology, how people interact with each other. It's a whole new fascination. We can obviously delve into that later. But my passion at the moment is my business and really reaching out to a lot of people. And it's a bit of a game right now. And obviously, we're going to go into the specifics for it. In terms for something that not a lot of people know about me, I think that pretty much did answer. No one knows that I was born in America, but some people may hear the American accent. Some people may not. So depends if you can hear it or not. Yeah.
Good on you, Scott. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Scott, moving on to our next question. Can you please share about your work experience prior to you starting your venture, the Unspoken Pitch?
So prior to starting at the Unspoken Pitch, I used to work at an architecture firm. We did a lot of pitching there. We were helping companies sell these buildings, and we'd really need to create a presentation to really do a show and tell. So that was the very first experience I had in terms for experiencing what it's like to really present to key stakeholders, really persuading people to buy a building. From that onwards, I ventured out. I've always wanted to start my own thing, but I just didn't know what it was. So I went to a lot of these business events, right? Hearing other stories for what other people are doing. I've always wanted to start my own business. And then I actually had a couple of mentors along the way. And when I mean mentors, just people I've been hearing in podcasts and audiobooks. And one of the key things that stood out for me was, what's one skill that you have that will be valuable to others? And at that time, I had a very creative skill. My heart said I'm a visual person in itself, and that's probably where it translated. And I went to a lot of these business events, and what actually happened was I saw a lot of these presentations that they just looked dry and bland. And, they had a great message, but the slides just purely did not reflect that. I had the brilliant idea of, you know what, maybe I should just reach out to these speakers, for the next event and ask them if I could help them out with their slides. And that's exactly what happened. I reached out to the very first person. Her name was Sarah. I just did a cold email. I was like, hi, my name is Scott. I'm looking to definitely start in the space. I would love to design your slides. And she's like, yeah, sure. And then she actually is located from Melbourne. And so she came down to Sydney, and she's like, look, let's grab coffee. And I still remember it. It's in one of the old buildings over in Pitt Street Mall. And we sat there having a coffee. And at that time, my very first venture was like social media, digital specialist. I mean, I was just trying stuff, right? And she sat down with me. She's like, look, Scott, I'm going to be promoting your business. And I don't know what it is that you do. Do you do social media, or you do this presentation stuff? And literally, at that very moment, I had to make a decision, right? And so I told her, like, yeah, I'll do presentations. And literally in the next 24 hours, I had to come up with a business name. I had to create a website, I had to create a logo. And basically, because this speaker is going to be promoting my business the next day when she's going to be sharing the slides that we've created. And so I still remember that moment. I was like, okay, what kind of business name am I going to have it? Is it like Vivid Visuals or like Presentation Kings or something like that? I had no idea. And at that time, I didn't live far from the CBD, so I took the long way home. I decided to walk home, from Town Hall, walking down to Central towards Redfern area. And there was a gallery. And I decided to just walk in, And, it was opening night and everyone was having cocktails and drinking and all that. And then I just walked up to the first bunch of people. I'm like, hey, look, I got this business idea, especially around presentations, and got any ideas for names? And one of them was like, the Unspoken Pitch. And I was like, that's amazing. This is amazing. So I literally went back home, right? I went into one of those websites, bought the domain name, created the website overnight, created some logo, and literally just whipped it up and was able to put the stamp on the end of the slides when she was presenting the next day. And it was amazing. And since then in itself, we started to get into just designing presentations, and next thing you know it was all about how do we get the message out very clearly and simply, right? And that's where that came about. And then people were like, "Oh, we need to visualize some ideas," and that's where I'm a bit of a sketcher. During my university days, I was always that person to scribble down notes. And I didn't actually know that skill translated into creating infographics and being able to think visually, right? And so the insertion or the skill set of being able to, simplify a message combined with visuals was the culmination that really happened. And then it evolved into people wanting to get their message delivered strategically. And that's where we start to give advice on a bird's eye view, right? From a sales perspective, from a marketing perspective. And that's where it starts to write, and we start to go from there, right? One thing led to another. And that's a bit of a long answer to your response. That's how the Unspoken Pitch came to where it is today, 2020.
Excellent, Scott. I mean, it's such an interesting, unique story, isn't it? I mean, you do this, you help this lady with the presentation. She kind of sees value in it and she wants to promote your business, and you walk home, you think about the idea, you go into a pub or bar or whatever, and you throw that question out, and they come up with the Unspoken Pitch, and there you are. I mean, it's amazing. And I think it speaks also a lot about your confidence. You knew that you had this talent and you got this validation from this person, and you said, why not, let me give it a try. And good on you. I mean, it's such a unique story, and good on you for taking grab of that opportunity, because many people would say, no, probably not, but you actually took hold of that opportunity, and you are here with your business after so many years of excellent track record, and you're sharing the story. It's really wonderful to hear. And Scott,
Thank you. Yeah.
And moving on to our next question, Scott, could you please share about the Unspoken Pitch's unique product offerings, that which is a standout for your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we firstly thought that designing slides is something, and there is definitely a niche in that part, right? And what actually happened was I started to really listen to why people were coming to the Unspoken Pitch. And, I started to really analyze what it was. And it's sometimes the little words that they say, no pun intended, like their unspoken pitch that they really try and communicate. They're like, look, we need to get our message across in a very clearest and simple way. And as I'm starting to do that, I'm starting to listen like, okay, so maybe it's not about designing slides. It's actually across. And then they would say, how do we articulate that idea? And that's where I thought of this genius idea where, how about we combine that with visuals, right? How can I bring the power of messaging and the power of creativity together? How can we transform the business world so that they can powerfully communicate their message effectively? And this is one of the things that I realized going into the business market is the corporate world is very corporate. And unless you're a creative person, then you're in that space and there's obviously some creative space and opportunity for you. But if you're not, it's very stock standard and no one's really helping them see the light in the tunnel, helping them differentiate themselves. And when they see the Unspoken Pitch, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for something to help powerfully get the message across in a very clear and simple way. And it helps, when we combine, messaging and also great, amazing visualization, like infographics and videos and PowerPoint to really combine the two and two together. And what it really does happen over here is that, we took messaging, we took design, and we married the two. And as a result, the market really responded. The market really liked what we created. It was different, and people are looking for new stuff. People are looking for some innovative stuff to really get the message across. That's how we've kind of separated ourselves in the market to this point.
Excellent, Scott. Thank you so much for sharing that. And Scott, moving on to our next question. What lessons have you brought forth from your previous work experiences into your business venture?
There's a couple of them. Definitely architecture, where I was able to learn about seeing things visually, seeing things structurally. A lot of clients come to us because they're very technical minded, and they need someone to be able to simplify their message. And with the skill set of architecture, you need to see the technicalities in a very simple way, in a very structured way. We had to obviously put things in blueprint, and so that really took place. The next journey in this whole thing is I actually worked with Apple as well. I was in their graduate program, and they sent me around the world. And through that venture in itself, I learned the power of minimalism, right? The amazingness to really just simplify ideas, right? How can we powerfully get a message from A to B in the quickest way, but yet it's very strategic and very done correctly. In that as well, sales has definitely been a big thing. I've always loved communicating. I've always wanted to, I have a hobby of being able to just work on myself and really take my self-improvement to the next level. As a result, I was reading a lot of books, and I was quite a spiritual person. I was able to then tap into that and really take that experience of going out into the uncomfortable zone. And of course, we can definitely delve into that, but that's definitely a translated skill that translated over. The other thing was I was involved in network marketing, multi-level marketing. And as a result, I had to have the ability to sell. I had to have the ability to present ideas that were very conceptual. And that really is a really good experience of being able to market yourself. For those who've been involved in network marketing or multi-level marketing, it's very much you got to sell a lot. So that really translated. And then from that, I think it was just a bit of here and there. All those little parts kind of came together and gravitated up to this very point. I mean, I'm still a student of the universe. I'm still learning from the market. I'm still ongoingly educating myself on how I could take a golden nugget from this industry or this industry, or probably your business as well, Tony, right? And really just seeing how I could mold that into the unspoken pitch. It's a bit of a game, I reckon. It's a bit of a game in the journey of entrepreneurship. It's what I've discovered.
Thank you, Scott. And there's so many things you shared. And I, what caught my attention was your time at Apple, and the idea of actually simplifying things. You know what I mean? Because sometimes when you give a topic to a person, they could, if they're passionate about the topic, they could probably talk on for hours. But then I think the idea is basically to do something that in a succinct way, that is not time intense, or if you say, for example, using graphs, how to give the punch to the audience who's actually looking at that graph or a video, conveying messages in the most simplest ways, and I think it's a skill. Not everyone is good at doing it, and I think there's definitely a market, in what you're doing. Yeah. So good on you, Scott.
And that point, that point is definitely very interesting, right? Like the ability to visually see things and the ability to visually communicate things. Honestly, I thought everyone had that skill set. I generally thought everyone had that skill set. It turns out not everyone does. And it's kind of, sometimes it's really having someone as an outsider to be able to see, your business or see you as a character, and really probably asking your best friends, like, what do you see in me? Like, what is it that you see that I do that I probably discard? You can probably relate, right, Tony?
I think so. I think so, Scott. I mean, I think it's all about having that outsider perspective, because sometimes we can get so busy with our work and life, and we like to. I think as human beings, we are beings of routines. Like, we like to get into a routine of things, and sometimes we miss out on things that we need to pay attention to, or we miss on ideas that we think might actually take a lot of time. So when you get an outsider perspective and say, Scott or Tony, I think you're good at this, or you're bad at this, maybe you need to fine tune that, or hone your skills in that. That's such an important thing, because that outside perspective gives you a different look at things. And I think that's very important. And it's good that you shared about your friends coming to you and saying, okay, Scott, maybe this is how you should look at things. And that brings a lot of value into how we move forward in life, I think. So thank you, Scott.
You have
thank
to
you.
really have that grit. Yeah, you have to have that ability to be open-minded. I mean, I don't think a lot of people have that open-mindedness in just really being able to just be open to it. I think a lot of people need to transform that and be open to changing. Change is great. Changing is great if it's for the best, right? So, yeah.
Excellent, Scott. So, Scott, moving on to our next question. Could you please share about the highs in your venture and for you personally before the COVID-19 pandemic hit?
There's quite a lot of things that came up as highs. The business has been running for almost close to 7.5 to 8 years now. I think the highest is being able to not give up. I mean, that's been my biggest high. I mean, prior and during, we had our best month ever in record history. And it's so interesting because I think my biggest high was the ability to not give up. And I guess high in revenue wise, we definitely did the highest ever. And I think the ability to just not give up is my biggest high. is that, yeah. And I think before COVID and during COVID, I think I was able to just be strong about it. I was able to just keep going. And what I mean by that is I think I just kept putting myself out there. And it was really weird because corporates started to see what I do. And as a result, one thing led to another, Then I'll have some premium consultants who come on board, and then I have another corporate client that comes on board. And some of these are pretty big brands like I would never suspect come along into the Unspoken Pitch picture, right? I think it's just when you really do put yourself out there. And I've been very fortunate to have mastered LinkedIn and being able to, broaden my network and really reach out to people that I've never met before. That's probably been my biggest accomplishment, I would say, is I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I created a business where, people find me at the moment, right? I mean, I think last week alone, we had 10 new prospects that I've never met before, want to reach out and find out more about the Unspoken Pitch. And this is during COVID pandemic time. And I think when you have a real need in a market, people are going to find you.
Excellent, Scott. Yeah.
Going to want to do something about it. Yeah. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much. And I think, the most important thing, be it the pandemic or, definitely there are situations we need to pivot and iterate and, our ideas and stuff. But I think you spoke about perseverance, keeping at it and be focused on the bigger goal or the vision. And that's very encouraging, because sometimes, when people face struggles or hardships, or, they have some hurdles, they think of like packing up and leaving. But the honest truth, I think, what I hear from a lot of business people and entrepreneurs is that you need to persevere and keep at it, because, opportunities would come. You might, there might be life lessons that you learn as you make those decisions, and things might change, for the better. So you need to keep at it. And that's very encouraging to hear from you, Scott. And thank you for sharing that. And Scott, moving forward, into our next question. So when the pandemic hit Australia, What were the steps that you took to mitigate its effect on your business?
It's a very interesting thing. The media was obviously really crazy at it, right? And in the simplicity of it all, there's an external thing that's coming in, right? And one thing that I did was I just realized that. I mean, I had to take myself out of the picture and just realize what's really happening at the moment. And there is some news that's coming in, and just like other news, for me, one thing that I need to do was stay strong and stay focused. And the thing that I did was I had to really just cut off some of this news and media. I really maintained my composure and took the right business action steps. And specifically, what that means is communicate more, right? Reach out to new prospects, reach out to old prospects, see how they are. And it's all about business as usual. And then for us, we're very fortunate. We're in a professional services. Most of our team's already been working from home. So this has been a very grateful journey in itself where our team has carried on as well. And we just kept at it. And in fact, we just saw the current lay of the land, of course. If it's a bricks and mortar business, that's obviously going to be impacted in itself. And we just kind of saw what the lay of the land was, right? People are working from home. What does that mean? That means that people are more reachable digitally, right? So if we wanted to send an email to someone or we want to send a LinkedIn message to someone, they were able to respond, right? They had the time and ability to do that. And I think that's what I did, is being able to just think creatively in being able to handle this situation and just keep soldiering on. Yeah.
Good on you, Scott. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's very interesting you shared it, because I think during the situation in Australia, I think because a lot of people were using social media for communication, I was surprised how fast people were responding to LinkedIn messages or or WhatsApp messages or whatever. So that was good that you actually saw potential in there and tried to leverage your business, during that tough time as well, and as we go through the tough time, even currently. And Scott, moving on to our next question. So moving forward, what are your plans for the Unspoken Pitch?
We've been in Australia, we're talking about East Coast like Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland. We've been in Perth as well. We started to tap into the Adelaide market as well. Our intentions is definitely to go into the APAC region. And what that means is Australia Pacific. Yeah, Asia Pacific, right? So that would be Singapore and New Zealand. I feel like we're not really tapping into that area over there. And there's a lot of room for improvement. We're thinking we have a really great message in itself, and it's just reaching a lot more people more than ever before, right? We're really cranking it up at the moment, but we want to double crank it up, right? And what I mean by that is just brand awareness. That's our next gameplay at the moment. Our team has been amazing. We've got some great members aboard, very, very skilled in itself. And when it comes down to this, being the director of it, I'm always looking for opportunities, and it's now just thinking differently in reaching out to the different markets. We have a very strong, compelling message, right? There's a lot of presentations that need to be saved. There's a lot of people who have great ideas that need to be saved. And for us, it's how do we tap into a market that no one's really heard of, right? That did not know this is a service in itself. I don't want to reveal too much of the next steps. I'm more of an action type of guy. And what I mean by that is until it's done, right? That's been the mantra that I personally live by.
Good on you, Scott. That's very encouraging to hear. And Scott, and I wish you all the best with those plans that you have in mind, and hope you guys, conquer more markets along the way. And moving on to our next question, Scott, if you look back to the time from when the Unspoken Pitch commenced operations, what would you have done differently and why?
What would I have done differently? I wish I kind of took feedback quickly And what I mean by that is I would have just listened to the market a lot more intently and really take that feedback and really iterate that right away. And it may not mean a lot to a lot of people, but for us, that flashing back, that will probably be the best thing, right? Is, if someone said no to us or using our services, it was like, why? And sometimes I took that little idea as in, okay, forever that whole industry is not possible anymore. I think listening to feedback from the right people who were able to use our services or who saw value in our services, that's something that I would say we'll do differently, and quickly adjusting to it. I think when it comes down to this, oftentimes we could, when someone says no or I'm not interested in your services, we could really just be so, I guess, in cave, right? And really just hate ourselves for it. But it's more about, realizing that and just quickly moving on and taking the right next action. So I would definitely say quickly adjusting to the next step and to the feedback your market is saying.
Good on you, Scott. Good on you. That's very interesting, and I think that's something. I mean, it's always good for us to look back in hindsight and reflect on things. But I think sometimes when you are a startup or when you're running your business, there's so many things that you have to think about. Sometimes I think because of lack of time, sometimes we don't intently listen to the market. But it's good to hear from you that that's something that everyone needs to pay attention to. What does your market really want? What are they trying to communicate with you? And that's very positive to hear that from you,
Yeah.
Scott. Thank you. And moving on to our last question, Scott, what are the life and business lessons that you would like to share with someone who is planning to start an entrepreneurial venture in Australia?
There's so many things I want to talk about on this. Do you mind if I share a couple?
Go for it.
Yeah. Number one thing, especially when you're venturing into the Australian market, is you need to listen to the market. And what I mean by that is find out where your market is and really just get involved. And that may be part of a community, maybe going to a Facebook group of the Australian market and really just understanding, what's really happening and what are they actually saying. If you can get a chance, see if you can speak to someone, who has that background or who is in that industry. And sometimes and just taking them out for coffee or in this case, a Zoom meeting, right? And really just asking them like, what is it that what is it that not a lot of people, what's the challenging parts in your industry? What are some things that people are not addressing? And I realized when you're entering into the Australian market, number one, you need to kind of solve a problem. And that's ultimately a big deal. We're in the professional services, so I can't really give advice on people who are, designing clothes or shoes or selling an e-commerce thing. You really we're in the professional services and you want to find out what problem you're solving. And it takes a lot of research. And if you're solving a problem and you could be different about it, that's definitely the thing that I would say when it comes down to venturing into the Australian market. Social media presence is very, very important when it comes down to the Australian market. Australians are very friendly, I would definitely say. If you need to get connected to someone, they're very willing to help out, provided you got obviously a good message, right, a good idea for it. It could really work wonders. That's definitely what I would say when it comes down to, venturing into the Australian market. That is definitely very good. But when it comes down to life and business lessons that you want to share, I would definitely say stop lying to yourself is going to be one thing. And what I mean by that is stop lying to yourself that you didn't speak enough to the market on getting feedback on whether your idea is good or not. Stop lying to yourself on if no one's really paying you money, but you just kind of keep going. You really got to be honest with yourself. Look at the numbers, do the numbers. Does it work out, right? Is this a feasible? I do this for one. I think these are some things that we really need to address as a lesson in itself, right? Make sure you do it with good intentions. And people think that success is like this, but really it's once you keep at it and you be good at it every single day, it's almost like that, right? It's almost a hockey curve progress. So just realizing that and just really taking amazing feedback, I reckon, from the market. And that's how you could definitely succeed in business. That's for sure.
Excellent, Scott. Thank you so much for sharing, your journey, all the life lessons you've learned, the business lessons you've learned. And I think, for me, and I think for the public in general would be, some of the lessons I think you've shared is touching on, basically listening to the market, what the market really needs, persevering with your idea. That's such an important thing for an entrepreneur. And I think you touched on, your team, the importance of having a good team around you. And even when challenges like COVID comes, try to, make best use of that situation, in terms of your business goals and visions, and reach out and, use social media platforms and all those kind of things. So, basically the message is persevere, if the market, you see market potential and do your best in whatever you're doing. So, Scott, I really wish you the very best into the future. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I wish the Unspoken Pitch great success into the future. And thank you, Scott, for your time.
Awesome, buddy. Really good to hear from you. Glad to be on the show.
Thank you.